In this movie, Nami loses her phone, and it ends up in the hands of a dangerous person who hacks her phone for his own motives. As the hacker uses her phone to cause trouble, Nami finds herself in great danger. At the beginning of the film, Nami woke up when her alarm rang and used her phone all day long. It was ringing even while she was working, talking to someone, and even at a party. After the party, she took a bus home and accidentally left her phone behind. When she woke up the next morning, she didn't realize her phone was missing. Her friend came over and woke her up, and then Nami remembered her phone was gone. She started searching for it and called her number, but a woman answered. The woman was actually the boy who found the phone, talking through his mother's recording. The woman told Nami that the phone was with her. Nami invited the boy to a hotel, where he agreed to meet. The boy tried to check the phone but couldn't unlock it because of the password. Frustrated, he ended up breaking the phone's screen. Meanwhile, a girl's body was discovered in the jungle. She had been killed in a brutal way. An officer working on the case suspected his missing son, Junyoung, who had been gone for 7 years. Junyoung was the same boy who had found Nami's phone. The officer figured out several details, but his partner noted that suspicion alone wasn't enough to catch Junyoung. They needed evidence. Nami visited her father's hotel and discovered he had an Instagram account, which made her happy. Soon after, she received a call from the woman who had her phone. The woman apologized for accidentally breaking the phone screen and said she had sent it to a repair shop, paying for the fix. Nami could pick it up from there. When Nami went to the shop, she saw Junyoung, who was wearing a mask. He managed to find her phone's password and installed hacking software on it while repairing the screen. Junyoung also made a duplicate of her phone and gave it back to her. Nami left the shop without realizing that Junyoung was monitoring everything she did on her phone. He could see her calls and messages and even watched her through the phone's camera. One night, while Nami was working at her dad's hotel, Junyoung showed up and mentioned he often visited the place. Nami didn't recognize him because he had been wearing a mask at the shop. Junyoung asked for the hotel's special drink. Since he had been monitoring her phone, he knew all about her interests and favorite games, which impressed Nami. He also shared that he worked for a company specializing in software and the internet. Nami's father watched them as they talked. That night, Nami fell asleep while chatting with friends, and Junyoung spent the entire night checking her phone, learning all her secrets. The next morning, Nami went to work and saw a picture of the girl Junyoung had killed, who was the same girl found dead in the jungle. Junyoung decided to target Nami next. At work, Nami's boss praised her work and doubled her salary, but asked her to keep it secret. Junyoung overheard this. Meanwhile, Junyoung's father visited his wife and questioned her about Junyoung. She denied knowing anything, even though he knew she and Junyoung were in contact. He revealed that a girl had been killed in the city, and he suspected Junyoung. She denied it, saying her son could not be a killer. At the same time, the officer received a message from his friend. The friend said he had found Junyoung's location, where he was living secretly. Meanwhile, Nami was working happily on her project. Junyoung visited her house and started going through her belongings. He discovered that Nami used 2 phones. In another scene, the officer's friend told him he had found Junyoung's place, and the officer went there alone to investigate. He entered the house and searched everywhere. He also took some pictures and found information about the dead girl's mother. While the officer was searching, Junyoung came out, already knowing someone was inside. Junyoung saw his father there and realized his dad had found nail polish on the corpse. This made Junyoung's father suspect that Junyoung was involved in the murder. Junyoung cleverly called his father out of the room, and once he left, destroyed all the evidence and documents. Junyoung then returned to Nami's hotel, and after talking with her father, asked for the specific drink again. Nami's dad realized Junyoung was lying and wasn't a regular customer. He then started talking to Nami about it. That night, as Nami and her father were heading home, her dad told her he believed Junyoung was not genuine. He had come to the hotel twice, which was unusual since he had never been there before. Her dad thought Junyoung was hiding something and advised Nami to stay away from him. Nami agreed, though she didn't fully believe her dad. Junyoung overheard their conversation. Later, Nami was with her friend and mentioned that if Junyoung changed his hairstyle and removed his glasses, he would look very cute. Her friend expressed interest in meeting him, and Nami promised to introduce them. Meanwhile, the officer visited the dead girl's mother, who mentioned that her daughter's phone had been damaged and repaired at a mobile shop. After the repair, strange things began happening, leading to her daughter's death. The officer reassured the mother that they would find the killer. Afterward, Junyoung attacked Nami's father and took him away. That night, the police discovered 8 bodies in the jungle. which was very shocking for the officer. The next morning, Nami woke up to numerous missed calls and messages on her phone. She had sent offensive messages about her friends and boss. A post revealed her boss had doubled her salary. When Nami went to the office, her team was very angry with her. Even after she told them that she hadn't sent any messages or posts and suspected her phone had been hacked, no one believed her. Her boss fired her and demanded proof. Nami left the office feeling very distressed. Nami went to her friend's house and cried heavily while explaining everything that had happened. Her friend comforted and supported her. Jun-young, who had been watching, noticed how close Nami was to her friend and decided she needed to be removed from the situation. Nami and her friend went to the police station to report the issue. The officer informed them that the problems were due to online activity and that they couldn't help because they couldn't track down the person responsible. Nami's friend left with her after being upset by this information. Meanwhile, Jun-young stayed at Nami's dad's house and tied him up. He sent messages from Nami's phone to prevent her from suspecting anything. Nami and her friend returned to the hotel and discussed who might be behind the situation. They realized they needed someone skilled with computers and the internet. Jun-young, who was also at the hotel, checked Nami's phone while she went to get some juice. He informed her that someone had hacked her phone and installed software that allowed them to control it. He suggested that the person responsible must be someone close who knew her password. During this, Nami's friend secretly took photos, which Nami found suspicious. When they returned to the hotel, Nami's friend showed her news about 8 bodies found by the police. Noticing Nami's lack of response, her friend asked if something was wrong. Nami became angry and accused her friend of being behind the hacking, as only she knew Nami's password. Her friend felt deeply hurt upon hearing Nami's accusation. She said that because of Jun-young's actions, Nami was doubting her. Upset, she decided to end their friendship and left. She was very sad and cried while Jun-young watched from a distance. Meanwhile, the police checked the luggage of the corpses they had found, and the officer became very distressed. His friend told him they needed to catch Jun-young quickly because things were getting worse. The officer instructed his friend to locate the mobile shop where Jun-young worked. Nami, feeling heartbroken, threw her phone in frustration after watching videos of herself and her friend. The screen broke again. The officer and his friend arrived at Jun-young's mobile shop, but found it completely destroyed. They discovered some papers revealing the identities of the 8 victims found dead. The officer knew about a 9th victim from information he had found at Jun-young's house and said they needed to rescue her. His friend suggested they announce it on the news to catch Jun-young quickly. Nami, who had overheard their conversation, realized that Jun-young was behind everything. He had hacked her phone and posted those messages, leading to her losing her job and her friend. Nami called Jun-young's company, but found out that no one by that name worked there. Angered, she decided to get revenge and teach Jun-young a lesson. The officer had heard her plans but chose not to tell her that Jun-young was a serial killer. Instead, he said he also wanted to catch Jun-young, who was not a good person. Nami suggested that she invite Jun-young to her home and have the police catch him when he arrived. The officers agreed to this plan. The next day, Nami sent a message to Jun-young, inviting him to meet her. Meanwhile, outside her house, the police officers waited in their car for Jun-young. Jun-young changed his appearance to match Nami's description. He cut his hair and removed his glasses. When he arrived at her house, the officers tried to arrest him but quickly realized this was not Jun-young. The disguise had fooled them. Jun-young threatened to report them, claiming he was innocent. The officers told him they were looking for a murderer and left him. They then met Nami, who explained that Jun-young had responded to her message, saying he was busy and would meet later. She also mentioned she was getting her mobile repaired and would use another phone in the meantime. The officers agreed to this plan. The officer received a call from the station informing him that Jun-young was indeed the murderer. They advised him to stay away from his house for safety. Worried, the officer alerted Nami, who decided to go to her dad's house for protection. Upon arriving, the officer gave Nami his card for emergencies. As she settled in, she received a message from Jun-young's new number. When she checked, she found the phone ringing inside the house. Scared, she tried to call the officer but found her mobile ringing on its own. She realized Jun-young had hacked this phone as well. Jun-young then sent a message threatening her dad's life. Nami was terrified and begged to know why Jun-young targeted her. Jun-young explained that he had found her mobile on the bus and used it to learn about her, making her an easy target. He had taken her dad, tied him up in the bathroom, and threatened to kill him. Nami begged Jun-young not to kill her dad and agreed to do anything. Jun-young ordered her to tie herself with tape, which she did. Junyoung then filled the tub with water, preparing to drown her dad. Nami watched in despair and cried, shouting at Junyoung. He covered her face with tape, pushed her aside and left her in the water-filled tub while taking pictures of her and laughing at her misery. Junyoung took the officer's card and wrote a note telling Nami to call, not message. Since Nami had already sent a message to the officer, he realized that Junyoung was responsible and decided to go after him. Meanwhile, Junyoung noticed that the officers had entered the house and quickly captured the officer's partner. His father arrived and also tried to catch Junyoung, but started attacking him, thinking he was an intruder. The officer's partner saved Nami from drowning and managed to pull her out of the tub. The officer then beat Junyoung and demanded to know where his son was. Junyoung revealed he was indeed his son, but the officer was too enraged to listen and continued to assault him. Nami came to her senses and saw the officer's partner trying to revive her dad, who was still unconscious. The officer searched Junyoung's bag and found belongings from his previous victims, including items from his own missing son. It was revealed that Junyoung had actually been dead for 7 years, and the killer had been using his identity to commit murders. The officer wanted to kill the murderer, but was taunted by him for not realizing the truth about his own son. Nami, in a fit of anger, seized the officer's gun and killed the killer. Relieved that her dad was alive, she hugged him tightly and cried. She was then taken to the hospital for treatment. After some days, the police revealed that the killer, who had been murdering people through the internet, was dead. Nami and her dad were recovering at the hotel when they noticed someone watching them. It was unclear whether it was a new threat, the officer's son, or someone else who might continue the killings. The movie ended with this scene.